Lucrezia Borgia was the ultimate drama power player of Renaissance Italy. Her name became inseparable from a family many contemporaries, and later historians, would call the most sinful dynasty in history. Behind the legends lies a life filled with conspiracy, political manipulation, and profound injustice. Lucrezia was the illegitimate daughter of Pope Alexander VI, born Rodrigo Borgia, a pope openly acknowledging his children and using the full authority of the church to elevate his bloodline. Was a scandal that shook Europe at the time. The Borgia family was widely viewed as dangerous outsiders, Spaniards who had seized control of Italy through money, violence, and notorious decadence, hosting lavish, morally shocking banquets within the Vatican itself. To understand Lucrezia's background, imagine the Borgia family as a mafia empire wrapped in the most sacred religious robes on earth. Rodrigo Borgia was nothing like the virtuous cleric people expected. He was a brilliant political strategist, a pleasure seeker, and a master manipulator. His election as Pope in 1492 was not guided by divine inspiration, but by mountains of gold, lavish bribes, and promises of land to other cardinals. It is widely regarded as one of the most corrupt papal elections in Vatican history. Although church law forbade priests from having families, Rodrigo openly acknowledged Lucrezia and her brothers as his legitimate children. He loved them obsessively and was willing to trample any religious or moral boundary to push them to the very top of power. Contemporary accounts describe Rodrigo as physically imposing, extraordinarily intelligent, and terrifyingly persuasive, a man capable of bending others to his will within minutes of conversation. The Borgias were, in fact, Spanish by origin. Their original surname was Borgia. When they arrived in Italy and consolidated power, native Italian noble families such as the Medici and the Sforza despised them. Italians derisively called them Marranos, a slur implying Jewish or Muslim converts, portraying the Borgias as crude invaders corrupting Rome's culture and religion. This constant contempt forged a ruthless mindset within the family. The more they were despised, the more brutal and unified they became. Their unspoken creed was simple. If they cannot be loved, they must be feared. Living inside this family, Lucrezia Borgia witnessed things no young woman of her time should ever have been exposed to. Her mother, Venanza de Catania, was a beautiful noblewoman who lived openly with Rodrigo Borgia for many years as his partner, effectively as his wife, in full public view. Far removed from the refined image of religion, the rooms of the Borgia palaces were drenched in gold and silk, serving as stages for nights of excess that lasted until dawn. One extraordinary and rarely discussed detail is that when Rodrigo was absent, he entrusted the administration of the Vatican itself to Lucrezia, who was then only in her early 20s. This had no historical precedent. A young, unmarried woman seated on the papal throne, handling the affairs of the church. From childhood, Lucrezia was deliberately shaped by her father into a perfectly trained political instrument. She was fluent in Latin, Greek, French, and Italian. She was famous for her long golden hair, often dyed or enhanced according to the fashion of the time, and for her sharp, intelligent eyes that unsettled even seasoned ambassadors sent to negotiate with her. Each time Lucrezia married, 3 times in total, Pope Rodrigo staged celebrations so extravagant that they reportedly drained the Vatican treasury. At one wedding, sweets and gold coins were scattered throughout the streets of Rome as a public display of absolute power. Lucrezia's life became a sequence of arranged marriages, moved like chess pieces on a political board. Her first husband, Giovanni Sforza, was discarded the moment he lost his political value. To annul the marriage, her father declared Giovanni impotent. In retaliation, Giovanni launched a devastating counterattack, claiming that Lucrezia was involved in an incestuous relationship with her own father and her brother, Cesare Borgia. This accusation became the origin of the darkest and most persistent rumor to follow Lucrezia for the rest of her life. Her second husband, Alfonso of Aragon, was different. This marriage was one of the rare moments in which Lucrezia experienced genuine love. But political conflict sealed Alfonso's fate. Cesare ordered his assassination while Alfonso was recovering from injuries, and he was murdered in his own bedroom. Lucrezia was utterly broken by his death. Lucrezia Borgia's life unfolded like a long-running political drama, where marriages began not with love, but with power contracts, and ended in humiliation or blood. She married Giovanni Sforza at just 13 years old, forming an alliance between the papacy and the powerful Sforza family of Milan. Once the Borgia family consolidated power and no longer needed the alliance, Giovanni was marked for disposal. Lucrezia's father and brother demanded that Giovanni voluntarily divorce her. When he refused, they threatened to kill him. Giovanni fled Rome on horseback in the middle of the night to save his life. To annul the marriage while preserving Lucrezia's purity for a more valuable future match, the Pope declared that the marriage had never been consummated due to Giovanni's alleged impotence. Publicly humiliated across Europe, Giovanni responded with a single lethal accusation. He claimed that the only reason the Pope wanted Lucrezia back was so that he and his son Cesare could keep her for themselves. This statement ignited the incest rumors that would haunt Lucrezia until her death. Some accounts suggest that, to prove her virginity before the cardinals, Lucrezia was subjected to a deeply humiliating physical examination. After the first scandal, Lucrezia was married to Alfonso of Aragon, a young, handsome, and well-educated prince. For the first time, her heart truly awakened. But that happiness became Alfonso's death sentence. Cesare could not tolerate his sister loving another man, especially as the alliance with Naples, Alfonso's homeland, was becoming useless to his ambitions. One night, Alfonso was attacked in the street and stabbed repeatedly. Lucrezia personally nursed him, cooked his meals herself, and kept servants away out of fear he would be poisoned. She even begged her father to place strict guards outside Alfonso's bedroom. One day, Lucrezia was tricked into leaving the room. Cesare entered and said calmly to Alfonso, "What failed at lunch will be finished by dinner." Moments later, Cesare's guards strangled Alfonso on his sickbed. After the death of the man she loved, Lucrezia sank into grief, wearing only black and weeping for months. To punish what he considered her weakness, her father sent her away to govern the city of Nepi, ordering her to regain composure and prepare for a third marriage. The numbers alone tell the scale of the drama. 13 years old, her age at her first marriage. 20 years old, a widow, after her husband was murdered on her brother's orders. 3 marriages, every one of them scripted and controlled by her father and her brother. During the intervals between these marriages, Lucrezia was rumored to have had a secret affair with a young papal aide named Pirato. Not long afterward, Pirato's body was discovered in the Tiber River. Many contemporaries believe that Cesare Borgia had him killed for daring to defile his sister. Do you want to follow the story into Lucrezia's third marriage, where she finally found a measure of peace? Or would you rather take a closer look at the ruthless figure of Cesare Borgia himself? Popular legend claims that Lucrezia owned a hollow ring filled with poison, most often said to be arsenic. At lavish banquets, she was said to discreetly tip the poison into an enemy's wine. This image of Lucrezia as the Poison Queen became the inspiration for countless novels and stage works, most famously those by Victor Hugo. The myth of Lucrezia Borgia's poison ring is more than a passing rumor. It became a kind of personal trademark whenever Renaissance women were portrayed as dangerous and deceptive. According to literary descriptions and folk legends, the ring was no ordinary piece of jewelry, but a dark masterpiece of Renaissance craftsmanship. In one version, the top of the ring appeared to be a large gemstone, such as a ruby or emerald, but was actually a tiny hinged lid. With a subtle flick of her fingernail, a hidden compartment would open. An even more frightening variation described a small latch or poison needle concealed beneath the ring's surface. During a handshake, a slight squeeze would cause the needle to pierce the skin, injecting poison directly into the bloodstream, leaving the victim feeling nothing more than a mild sting. The most commonly told version involved a hollow ring used to sprinkle powdered poison into a goblet. Lucrezia would simply pass her hand lightly over the rim of her target's wine glass during an intimate conversation, letting the poison fall unnoticed. The Borgia family was also rumored to possess a signature poison known as cantarella, sometimes called aketa. It was said to be a horrifying mixture of arsenic and bodily fluids taken from pigs hung upside down until death. According to legend, the poison was colorless, odorless, and tasteless, dissolving perfectly into the finest wine. Its most terrifying quality was that it did not kill immediately. Victims would die slowly, over days or even weeks, showing symptoms similar to digestive illness, making it nearly impossible for Renaissance physicians to diagnose murder. Despite exhaustive searches of archives and palaces, modern historians have never found any physical evidence that Lucrezia owned such a ring. Yet the legend endured because of its irresistible imagery. A woman of extraordinary beauty, golden hair, pale skin, angelic features, carrying death in a single touch. The contrast was too powerful for writers to ignore. In 1833, Victor Hugo transformed Lucrezia into a fully realized villain in his play Lucrezia Borgia. Later, Gaetano Donizetti's opera pushed the image even further, portraying her as a woman who prepared coffins for her guests before poisoning them at a banquet. From video games like Assassin's Creed to television series such as The Borgias, the poison ring almost always appears as an essential prop used to symbolize the brutality of the Borgia family. Yet many historical clues suggest that if Lucrezia ever wore large rings with hidden compartments, their contents were far more mundane. They may have held perfumes to mask the overpowering stench of Rome's streets at the time, or tiny fragments of saints' bones or cloth, religious relics commonly carried by nobles as talismans for protection and good fortune. While Lucrezia was accused of poisoning others, her father, Pope Alexander VI, was himself rumored to have died by accidentally drinking poison intended for someone else. According to legend, he had prepared poison wine for a wealthy cardinal in order to seize his assets, but a servant mistakenly served the fatal cup to the Pope and his son Cesare Borgia instead. Would you like to reopen the file on the mysterious murder of the servant Parado, one of the rare dramas in which Lucrezia herself was suspected of being the mastermind rather than merely a victim? Despite the abundance of dark rumors, modern historians now offer a far more balanced assessment of her life. Lucrezia was, above all, a victim of her family, a highly intelligent and beautiful woman used relentlessly by her father and brother as a political tool, with no real control over her own fate or the debts that surrounded her. In her third marriage, she emerged as a patron of the arts, becoming Duchess of Ferrara and earning genuine affection from the people for her learning, generosity, and support of great artists. Her final tragedy came at the age of 39, when she died from complications following the birth of her 8th child, leaving behind a legacy forever torn between the image of a villainess and that of a victim. To truly close the story of Lucrezia Borgia, we must re-examine the historical indictments written against her and recognize a different truth. Lucrezia was not a demon, but a remarkably resilient woman who survived the storm of her own family. After her second husband was murdered by her brother, Lucrezia was married off by her father to Alfonso d'Este, heir to the Duchy of Ferrara. The House of Este, one of the oldest and proudest dynasties in Italy, initially looked down on her, viewing her as discarded baggage from the Borgia family. Instead of resorting to force, Lucrezia relied on tact and intelligence to win over her new family. She proved so capable in managing Ferrara's finances that when her husband went to war, she effectively governed the entire state in his absence. Under her patronage, Ferrara became the Hollywood of the Renaissance. She attracted towering literary figures such as Ludovico Ariosto and Pietro Bembo. It was widely rumored that Lucrezia and Bembo shared a pure, intellectual love through letters rather than physical contact. To this day, a lock of her golden hair is preserved in a museum in Milan alongside those letters. The primary reason Lucrezia was branded a villain lay in the enemies of her father. Unable to overthrow Pope Alexander VI by military means, rivals such as the Medici and hostile political commentators attacked what mattered most to him, the honor of his daughter. Every sin of a corrupt pope and every crime of a violent son was laid at Lucrezia's feet. She became the public face of Borgia evil simply because she was a woman and had no power to defend herself. Few people know that Lucrezia spent the latter half of her life devoted to charity and prayer. Beneath her silk gowns, she wore a coarse animal hair garment as a form of ascetic penance, atoning privately for the sins of her family. After 8 pregnancies, many ending in miscarriage or infant death, her body was utterly exhausted. She died shortly after an unsuccessful childbirth. Before her death, she wrote a humble letter to the Pope of her time, asking not for glory or forgiveness, but only for the salvation of her soul. This final act bears no resemblance to the image of a cold, calculating poison queen. Today, historians increasingly recognize Lucrezia Borgia as one of the most capable female political figures of the Renaissance. Dragged through 3 marriages, forced to watch those she loved be murdered by her own brother, and humiliated by the entire world, she nevertheless built a prosperous Ferrara and left behind a respected name there. The preserved lock of her golden hair remains one of history's most haunting relics, a symbol of beauty cursed by rumor, yet undeniably alive. Are you satisfied with Lucrezia's ending, or would you like to move on to another equally explosive drama, that of Marie Antoinette, the most hated queen in French history? As an extra piece of scandal, have you heard of the Banquet of Chestnuts? It is one of the most notorious episodes in Catholic history, in which the Borgia family was accused of hosting an unimaginable orgy inside the Vatican itself. To understand why Lucrezia Borgia is remembered as the ultimate queen of drama, we must dissect the most sensational details recorded by history and amplified by rumor. If there was one event that truly shocked all of Europe, it was the night of October 31st, 1501. Cesare Borgia hosted a banquet at the Vatican. According to the diary of Johann Burchard, 50 prostitutes were invited to dance. After the meal, chestnuts were scattered across the floor, and the women were forced to crawl naked to collect them, an image that would forever stain the name of the Borgia family. It is worth noting that both Pope Alexander VI and Lucrezia Borgia were also rumored to have been present, watching and even awarding prizes to the most productive participants. Although the accuracy of these claims remains disputed, the story alone left an indelible stain on the reputation of the Borgia family. Rumors spread that Lucrezia possessed an entire collection of exquisitely crafted and deadly rings. According to legend, each ring contained a tiny hidden compartment beneath its gemstone. With a casual sweep of her hand over an enemy's wineglass and a slight press, a small amount of cantarella, the Borgia family's infamous arsenic-based poison, would drop silently into the drink. Modern historians, however, largely agree that this image is a product of hostile imagination rather than fact. Even so, it became a powerful symbol in popular culture, reinforcing the idea of Borgia women as inherently dangerous and deceitful. The relationship between Lucrezia and her brother Cesare Borgia has fueled thousands of speculative theories. Cesare was notoriously possessive. He ordered the assassination of Lucrezia's second husband inside the palace itself, allegedly because he could not tolerate another man sharing his sister's affection. The incest rumor was first spread by Lucrezia's discarded first husband as an act of revenge. Yet Cesare and Lucrezia's constant closeness, and Cesare's willingness to kill any man who came too near her, allowed the story to survive for centuries. In 1498, a mysterious child appeared, Giovanni Borgia, known as Infans Romanus. 2 papal decrees were issued about the boy. The first named Cesare as the father. The second declared the child to be the son of Pope Alexander VI himself. Many contemporaries believe that Lucrezia was in fact the child's mother, the result of a secret affair or even incest, and that the family used religious authority to obscure the child's true parentage. Lucrezia's life stands as proof that, at times, historical reality can be more dramatic than fiction. Would you like me to delve deeper into the story of Cesare Borgia, the man often regarded as the blueprint for the perfect villain in history? And if there's another scandal or figure you'd like to follow next, leave a comment below. I'll cover it right away.